so I could see the whole array of frames and the section of planks. And there's a really nice set of timbers that go all the way across the ship. And when we tie it down, I mean, it's probably one of the most important shipwreck finds ever.
You have seen a lot of discoveries, but this one, no one had to see it. And if workers hadn't filmed it, no one would have believed it. From a 15th-century skeleton with a prosthetic hand to a scary Ice Age dentistry, these are the most astonishing and random historical discoveries in the world. Skeleton with a prosthetic hand. What many of us knew was that French surgeon Ambroise Paré made the earliest functional prosthetics for soldiers returning from the battlefield in the 16th century. This discovery just confirmed what we've known all along. Back when archaeologists in Germany uncovered a centuries-old skeleton complete with a metal prosthetic hand to replace 4 missing fingers, no one thought it was that special discovery. Archaeologists used carbon dating to estimate that the man who owned the skeleton, aged between 30 to 50 years old, died sometime between 1450 and 1620. This means the prosthetic hand is potentially almost 600 years old. The fingers on the man's left hand appear to have been amputated, and the remains of the hand were surrounded in a hollowed-out case wrought from iron and other metal, revealing the advanced state of medicine at the time. A bandage-like fabric was found inside the prosthetic hand, suggesting that it was used to cushion the stump. This skeleton was discovered in a grave near a church in the Bavarian town of Freising, about 40 kilometers north of Munich, during utility work. Considering the discovery site, Freising, which was the site of several battles during the Middle Ages and the 30 Years' War of 1618 to 1648, there was an increased number of amputations and consequently more prostheses. Next is the Irish hedge. But the fascination is not just about the hedge. It became a discovery when drought and a drone aid revealed the remains of an ancient Irish henge unexpectedly. An outline of the circular enclosure materialized in July in a wheat field adjacent to Bruna Boyne, a UNESCO World Heritage Site north of Dublin that's famous for megalithic tombs. Upon the discovery, archaeologists were happy because of its importance and confirmed that the henge is about 5,000 years old, based on when similar monuments in the area were built. Somehow it looks like Stonehenge, but according to experts, it was made of timber rather than rock. You see, what makes this discovery important is the size and layout of the new henge. Also, it has some characteristics that have not been seen before. For example, the very odd double ditch sections that make up its circumference. Not much is known about this discovery yet, as the new henge is on private property, and there are no immediate plans for an excavation. But if you ask us, we think not poking around the henge is for the best. After all, there's a mythical story floating around about the space where the new henge was found. According to Irish legend, once upon a time, an ancient drought was said to have struck the area, which in mythology was said to be located underwater in a magical sea called the Muir Themne. There was a huge sea turtle or monster in the sea called the Mata, which lived in the water, until Dagda, the sun god, came along and made the water recede, and the monster receded with the water. Let's just let the henge be. We don't want to see any sea monster, do you? Getting creepy here? Let's move to the next. 41 shipwrecks. You may think there's nothing special about shipwrecks, as many have been found in the past, but these are special. The archaeologists were not looking for shipwrecks at the time of this discovery. The Black Sea Maritime Archaeology Project has been trawling the seabed to understand how quickly the water level rose after the last ice age, 20,000 years ago. But their surveys ended up uncovering dozens of previously unknown wrecks. And what makes these discoveries amazing is the fact that they were found in excellent conditions. Magic? Well, that's all thanks to the low oxygen levels below 150 meters, which slows decay. Hulls, masts, tillers, and rudders are all clearly discernible. The team took thousands of still photographs of the shipwrecks and then used photogrammetry, a technique that uses software to calculate the positions of millions of points in space, to build 3D models of the discoveries. Some of the ships discovered are thousands of years old, dating to the Byzantine Empire, while others are from the Ottoman period. Another fascinating thing is that many of those found exist in historical records but had never been seen before. These findings would help shine a light on how the ancient empires used the sea for thousands of years. 2,000-year-old dog statue. Again, utility workers made this discovery while they were laying pipes under the pavement of the Via Luigi Tosti in Rome's Appio Latino quarter. While chipping out tunnels, they discovered a set of underground rock tombs, which were recognizable by their distinctive sizes and shapes. But one of them caught the attention of the workers, a Roman terracotta dog statue. It is not unusual for ancient burials to produce a wide variety of burial objects, but the striking and precisely crafted dog statue was nevertheless an unexpected discovery. The statue was small enough to fit in the palm of a person's hand, and it resembles the type of decorative part that was often used on Roman drainage systems installed on sloping roofs. Since the terracotta piece was found in a burial, the obvious implication is that it was an item treasured by the person whose cremated remains were stored in the urn. Romans kept and bred dogs as pets, for hunting purposes, for use in warfare, and for guarding property or livestock. In other words, their relationships with dogs were essentially the same as the relationships between dogs and humans today. While the features of the dog's face have been well preserved, it is still impossible to identify the breed of dog it represents. One highly popular dog in Rome was the gigantic Molossian hound, which had originally been imported from ancient Greece. This dog is now extinct, but may have been the progenitor of modern breeds of mastiff. Other dogs widely found in Empire-era Rome would have included breeds that were similar in appearance to Irish wolfhounds, greyhounds, Maltese, and lurchers. Since none of these creatures are still around in their ancient forms, it may be impossible to make an identification of the breed of dog featured on the terracotta statue. But that doesn't detract from the importance of the find, which expands knowledge about the types of artifacts people treasured and collected during ancient Roman times. Viking Sword. While Trevor Penny, a magnet fisherman, was out fishing, he unearthed a corroded Viking sword from the River Cherwell in Oxfordshire, dating back to as early as CE 850, marking a rare and significant archaeological find. The millennia-old Viking sword reveals insights into ancient warfare, illuminating a pivotal period of history with its remarkable archaeological significance. The sword's discovery underscores the interactions between Anglo-Saxons and Danish Vikings during a tumultuous era of England's history, characterized by warfare and territorial disputes. For many who never believed that the Viking sword was real, Penny himself facilitated the authentication process, ensuring the sword's preservation and documentation. It is indeed a remarkable find, and one that may be difficult to believe, but it's true. The Vikings do not only exist in books, but exist in real life too. Protective childbirth tattoo. If you thought lower back tattoos were one of the 21st century trends, just trash it immediately. This new archaeological evidence from Egyptian mummies shows the practice is actually more than 3 millennia old. The only difference is not really for fashion. These mummies were discovered in 2019 at the New Kingdom site of Deir el-Medina, which lies on the western bank of the Nile, across from the archaeological site of Luxor. The tattoos found on them are said to likely connect with the ancient Egyptian god Bees, who protected women and children, particularly during childbirth. Beginning in 1922, around the same time that King Tut's tomb was found, the same site was excavated by a French team. Known in the New Kingdom period as Set Ma'at, meaning place of truth, this was a planned community, a large neighborhood with rectangular gridded streets and housing for the workers responsible for building tombs for the Egyptian rulers. The men would leave for days at a time to work on the tombs, while the women and children lived in the village of Deir el-Medina. An important feature of the site is the so-called Great Pit, an ancient dump full of pay stubs, receipts, and letters on papyrus that have helped archaeologists better understand the lives of the common people. However, nothing in the Great Pit mentions the practice of tattooing, so the discovery of at least 6 tattooed women at Deir el-Medina was surprising. Archaeologists found human remains including a left hip bone of a middle-aged woman and preserved skin. Patterns of dark black coloration were visible, creating an image that, if symmetrical, would have run along the woman's lower back. Just to the left of the horizontal lines of the tattoo is a depiction of bees and a bowl, imagery related to ritual purification during the weeks after childbirth. If only these dead mummies knew their rituals are now fashion trends. =, Roman gold coins. These are not just Roman gold coins. They are gold coins that have come bearing an important revelation. You see, these ancient gold coins were once analyzed and dismissed as fakes, but now they have revealed the existence of a previously unknown Roman emperor. This emperor is known as Sponsian, a Roman military commander turned emperor. The craziest part is that he isn't mentioned in historical documents and is only known to us today through a hoard of Roman-era coins discovered in Transylvania. Around 1850, scholars re-examined their crude design and dismissed them as forgeries, which in turn cast doubts on the existence of Sponsian. But according to new research, the coin's unrefined flaws may instead reflect the fact that they were produced on the fringes of Roman society, rather than by the more expert minters responsible for most of the coins. Scientific analysis has shown that they were once used in active circulation and were then buried for a long time, evidence that strongly suggests that they are, in fact, authentic. Though it now appears likely that Sponsian did exist, little is known about his life. Given the location of the coins, it seems likely that the military commander was posted to what was then the province of Dacia, in modern-day Transylvania, Romania. Amid political turmoil, he may have found himself cut off from the rest of the empire and forced to take on the role of emperor to establish order and protect the isolated territory. As you must know, coins were an important symbol of power and authority during the Roman era, which may explain why Sponsian arranged to have them produced locally. He must be really happy in his grave to be finally discovered. Ancient canoe. This canoe is said to be 3,000 years old, discovered by a maritime archaeologist, Tamara Thompson, while giving a scuba diving lesson. It was discovered in Lake Mendota in Madison, Wisconsin, less than a year after another historical canoe dating back more than a millennium was discovered in the same body of water. When this canoe was discovered, it was in pieces, after which it was recovered from the lake. Experts believe that it is the oldest canoe found in the Great Lakes region, dating back to 1000 BC, according to radiocarbon dating results. It is believed that the found artifacts are further evidence of native communities that existed where Lake Mendota is now, giving more insight into the history of indigenous life in Wisconsin and the Great Lakes region. To get more information through these artifacts, they need to be restored, but that won't happen immediately. After discovery, they were kept in the care of tribal members and historical society staff, and later they will be taken to the State Archive Preservation Facility in Madison, where it will take approximately 2 years to restore them. Vampire burial. How much do you fear vampires? For most of us, we wish vampires did not exist in real life, but yeah, they do. And it would be astonishing to know about their practices and how they were buried in the past. The skeletal remains of what may have been a female vampire were found in a 17th-century Polish graveyard with a sickle across its neck to prevent the woman from rising from the dead. There were traces of a silk cap on her head, suggesting she was from a higher social status. Also, a triangular padlock was placed around the big toe on her left foot, an indicator that the people who buried the woman were concerned that she may rise from the grave, perhaps because they thought she was a vampire. The practice of vampire burials spanned Christian Europe from as early as the 14th century to the 17th century. Bizarrely, outbreaks of vampires were often associated with times when people were dying from causes that could not be explained by the science of the time, like a pandemic or a mass poisoning. Whenever there was a contagious disease, it was believed that vampires were the ones killing people. Other bodies have also been found with stones in their mouths, and it's all because it was believed that people could become noxerers, vampires that chewed through their shrouds and rose from the dead to bite the living and spread a plague around. Later on, as the lore evolved, people believed that vampires were rising from the dead and strangling people at night. Although more research is needed to confirm this was the burial of someone suspected to be a vampire, we still can't shove aside that this burial is mysterious. Long ago, there were many superstitions surrounding death in Europe, and not all of them had to do with vampires. Bodies have been found locked into their final resting place, nailed to the bottom of the grave, with stones weighing down their feet, or with thorns of roses on their graves. One thing was common: these practices were just to ensure that the bodies wouldn't rise again. Hadrian's Wall. Yet another surprising discovery. While workers were replacing a pipe in the West Road area of Newcastle, England, they discovered a previously unknown 10-foot-long section of Hadrian's Wall, one of the country's most iconic ancient landmarks. This unearthed partition, which dates back 1,900 years to the heyday of the Roman Empire, was found after digging 20 inches below one of Newcastle's busiest roads. The newly uncovered section features large stones, suggesting it was built in the early days of the wall's construction. Don't know what Hadrian's Wall is? It is a wall ordered to be built by Roman Emperor Hadrian in 122 CE to defend southern Britain from invasion by the barbarian Caledonian tribes of the unconquered north. The Picts of what is now southern Scotland posed a particular threat to the Roman province, engaging in guerrilla warfare tactics like stealing livestock and capturing enslaved people. Hadrian's Wall spanned 73 miles of northern Britain, stretching from Tyneside in the east to Cumbria in the west. Though the wall is the largest surviving archaeological feature from Roman Britain, just 10% of it remains visible today. When initially constructed, the wall measured 10 feet wide and around 15 feet tall, according to research. It is a wall that has been read in history books, so finding different sections of it is just like piecing together the torn pages of history books. Now it's time for our subscribers pick. Take a look at this gigantic skull. It looks like it belonged to a gigantic human of a size that no one has ever seen or imagined. It reminds us of the discovery of a huge fossilized skull that was wrapped up and hidden in a Chinese well nearly 90 years ago. Considering its location, no one had to see it. If workers hadn't filmed this, no one would have believed it, not even you. This skull, though not as big as this one right here, forced scientists to rewrite the story of human evolution. This fossil was so astonishing that it was named a new human species, Homo longi, or Dragon Man, by scientists. What do you think about this image, though? Do you think a human this big would have existed in the past? Let us know in the comments section. Now to the next discovery, Zoroastrian Towers. Let's not complicate this. You must know Zoroastrian has something to do with Zoroaster, but who exactly was Zoroaster? He was a prophet of ancient Persia, whose teachings laid the foundation for the religion known as Zoroastrianism. This religion largely dominated the land of Iran until the arrival of Islam after the fall of the Sasanian Empire. In simple words, Zoroastrian towers are towers built by Zoroaster followers. But it's not that simple. One of these towers is known as a Tower of Silence, also known as Dakma to the locals. This tower was used for disposing of the dead in a very bizarre way, a practice very common to the Zoroastrians. It involves the exposure of the corpse to the sun and vultures to feed on. As a result, there are several disused towers of silence, which no doubt have an air of mystery around them. The exposure of dead bodies to scavenging animals is recorded by the 5th century Greek writer Herodotus to have been practiced by the Persians. Therefore, it would be reasonable to date this Zoroastrian practice to this period, and quite possibly even further back in time. At present, it is not entirely clear when the earliest of these structures were built. Nevertheless, the towers of silence that are in existence today may have the same or a similar construction to the ones used in the past. These towers were essentially raised platforms with 3 concentric circles within them. The bodies of men were arranged in the outer circle, those of women in the middle circle, and those of children in the inner circle. While we really can't find things like this around anymore, we just want to know how much the archaeologists who discovered these towers puked. Well, the discoverers of the next discovery may just make you puke. Next is Blue Babe. This discovery is not the problem here, but the discoverers. The find is all about a bison species that's special. Today, there are only 2 extant species of bison, the European bison and the American bison, split into the plains bison and the woods bison. But thousands of years ago, there was also the steppe bison, whose mummy was found in Fairbanks, Alaska. But just after its discovery, the discoverers decided to take a bite out of it. Disgusting? Yeah, we know. The Blue Babe is perhaps the most dramatic steppe bison discovery. It is a male steppe bison that froze around 36,000 years ago north of modern Fairbanks, Alaska. Judging from marks found on the rear of the ancient carcass with tooth punctures, it is believed that the bison was killed by an Ice Age American lion. It likely succumbed to its wounds during the fall or winter when it was cold, and it quickly froze, becoming difficult for animals to scavenge. Since the discovery of the Blue Babe, more mummified steppe bison have been discovered in their former range. As with the woolly mammoth, there have been suggestions to extract DNA from the mummies and use it for cloning the species back into existence in the future. Wouldn't that be so cool? Ice Age Dentistry. Are you scared to visit the dentist? Be glad you don't live in the Ice Age. A pair of 13,000-year-old front teeth discovered in Italy contains the earliest known use of fillings, made out of bitumen. The teeth, 2 upper central incisors belonging to one person, were discovered at the Riparo Fredian site near Lucca in northern Italy. Each tooth has a large hole in the incisor's surface that extends down into the pulp chamber deep in the tooth. With the use of microscopic techniques, experts could get a close look at the inside of the holes and found a series of tiny horizontal marks on the walls that suggest they were cavities that had been drilled out and enlarged, likely by tiny stone tools. The markings were similar to those experts have initially found in teeth from another site in Italy, dated to 14,000 years ago. They were known as the first example of dentistry in humans, and definitely they must have helped at the time, but really, would you want to experience a tiny bit of it? Egyptian ring featuring the god of fun. You must have heard about the sun god, water god, and other gods, but what about the god of fun? Archaeologists in Egypt have unearthed stunning gold jewelry, including a ring depicting the god of fun, in a burial that's more than 3,300 years old. The burial is located in the northern part of the ancient city of Akhetaten, about 186 miles south of Cairo. This city was built by the pharaoh Akhenaten, who tried to change Egypt's polytheistic religion by focusing it on the worship of the Aten, the sun disk. One of the rings discovered has an engraved image of Bes, who was known as the god of fun. According to experts, Bes is a deity depicted as a dwarf who, in addition to playing music and having fun, also protected women during childbirth. Although you can find that in history books, it is fascinating to be able to have a closer look at a god as amazing as Bes. Don't you agree? Another astonishing discovery is Notur. This is not a regular discovery. It is a type of rare dinosaur found in a well-preserved state. It was found with impressive armored plates across its back and became mummified around 110 million years ago after enjoying one last meal before dying. And surprisingly, we know its last supper. You know, it's rare to find dinosaur stomachs and evidence of their diets preserved. Occasionally, seeds and twigs have been found in the guts of dinosaur remains, but never conclusive evidence about the actual plants. In this case, a muddy tomb encased and preserved the dinosaur so well that even its stomach contents remain to tell us that it was a picky eater. It lived off of plants and favored ferns, based on the contents of its stomach revealing a chunk about the size of a soccer ball. The Notosaur, known as Borealopelta markmicheli, was found in 2011 during mining operations north of Fort McMurray in Alberta, Canada. After its death, the dinosaur's remains ended up in what was an ancient sea, landing on its back in the muddy seafloor and remaining undisturbed until discovery. Amazing! Finally, we have the Oracle Room. Known as Hal Saflieni Hypogeum, it is a cultural property of exceptional prehistoric value, dating back approximately 5,000 years, and the only known example of a subterranean structure of the Bronze Age. This mysterious structure, often called the Labyrinth, consists of a series of elliptical chambers and alveoli of varying importance across 3 levels, to which access is gained by different corridors. The principal rooms distinguish themselves by their domed vaulting and by the elaborate structure of false bays inspired by the doorways and windows of contemporary terrestrial constructions. This structure is shrouded in mystery, from the discovery of elongated skulls to stories of paranormal phenomena. However, the characteristic that has been attracting experts from around the globe is the unique acoustic properties found within the underground chambers of the Hypogeum. Although not known for certain, it is believed that the Hypogeum was originally used as a sanctuary, possibly for an oracle. It is for this reason that a unique chamber carved out of solid limestone and demonstrating incredible acoustic properties has been called the Oracle Chamber. According to researchers, a word spoken in the Oracle Room is magnified 100-fold and is audible throughout the entire structure. The effect can be imagined when the oracle spoke and the words came thundering forth through the dark and mysterious place with terrifying impressiveness. According to those who paid a visit to the Hypogeum, standing in it is like being in a giant bell. At certain pitches, one feels the sound vibrating in bone and tissue as much as hearing it in the ear. One quick question: if you could sense something coming from somewhere else you can't identify, how would you feel? Terrified? That's probably how those who visited the Hypogeum felt. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.